Coming up today on Locked On at Texas Tech, impact players returning against Central Florida this week. Recapping a mad 20 seconds where Behren Morton let them things hang and swang, and a pun party centered on the Big 12 Special Teams Player of the Week. Next on Locked On Texas Tech.
You are Locked On Texas Tech, your daily podcast on the Texas Tech Red Raiders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
We're going to start this thing off right. Raider! Everything runs through Lubbock.
Great to be with you again on Locked On at Texas Tech on the Locked On Podcast Network. And thanks as always to those making us their first listen on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts. Today's episode brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. And these days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. And that's why LinkedIn Jobs helps find the right people for your team faster and for free. So post your job for free today at linkedin.com/LockedOnCollege. Terms and conditions apply. With the only Chris Level, I'm Casey Cowan. Chris, great to be back with you once again, my man, as we begin to somewhat turn the page towards the next potential victim. UCF fitting that description. But first, we're going to listen to some sound from Red Raider head coach Joey McGuire today, of course, as we're talking about what to expect come game time on Saturday. We'll get into some possible return impact as far as an injury report is concerned. We'll also hear from Coach McGuire on some late timeout decisions, seemingly based in extreme confidence in Behren Morton. Hey, we want to get the ball in this guy's hands. Let him go make a play. We'll get to that coming up, as well as some shoes being filled quite literally. There's so many puns. It's going to be a pun bonanza if we're talking shoes, we're talking kickers, and all things in between, as we have the Big 12 Special Teams Player of the Week to give a tip of the cap to in just a moment. But first, let's hit that injury report, Chris. And I might just go back to what I said a moment ago. Don't take this as gospel. Some terms and conditions may still apply for a couple of these guys. But I was really interested right off the bat to hear from Coach McGuire. Basically 4 names that got my attention, and sort of in, I suppose, descending order as far as most likely to possibly least likely to be back on the field on Saturday. But the names that were mentioned: Mason Tharp, Steve Linton, Tyler Owens, and Cole Spencer. Tharp thought to be back. Linton, I believe, expected to be back. Tyler Owens described as game time. Cole Spencer, the left guard who's missed some extended time, described more as day-to-day. So those are some different conversations among the 4. But if you want to just tackle the first guy on the list, which, by the way, was a little surprising to me, Mason Tharp could be back in the mix. And that sounds like big impact possibly back in the mix as you take on UCF.
Yeah, I think Mason will play. I really do. I think that he will help a lot, just based on, because he's such a pass catching threat, but also changes the dynamic with what personnel groups, and I think also in the run game, you can do some more 12 personnel type things, which is the 1 back and 2 tight end stuff. Because right now you've had Baylor Cup. Again, he's a bit dinged up, and then Jaden York. But I just think now when you've got 3 of them, you can really lean on these guys a lot more. And if you're expecting anything more than 20 to 30 like legit snaps, that's probably asking too much for Mason Tharp, because he's practiced some recently, but game shape is different than practice shape, if that makes sense. You start, getting involved in the run game and blocking and doing and running routes and all those kinds of things with all the, with 55,000 people in the stands. It's just it's a bit different. So I wouldn't expect just too much, but I think him being back out there is a huge benefit. Because, man, think about like Josh Cochran, the tight ends coach. Think about if you're just responsible for that position, like what you have woken up to for the last, 2 months. You knew you were going to lean on tight ends. You knew that you had a lot of them involved. Everybody wants people to throw it to these guys all the time. Why is the tight end involved in all that? And yet you've been without one. I think we haven't seen Mason Tharp. I think it's since West Virginia. I think I'm right there. Which would be the last, 5 or 6 games that he's missed?
Yeah.
I think that's right. Mason, Baylor Cup has also been playing through a a shoulder injury, I would say, and he's just kind of grinded it out. Jaden York is a walk-on. I think he's a good player. And then you've got, your Charlie Robinson. You've got Matt Young, who's a converted linebacker. That's kind of that position group has just really not been whole for about 6 to 7 weeks. And you use them a lot. What do you think has kind of helped the run game all of a sudden? And, people have been asking, hey, well, what's this J.J. Sparkman going in motion and and blocking and all that? It's because you're a bit dinged up at tight end and you just don't have the bodies there. So anyway, again, heavy position group to watch in the portal. Trust me when I tell you.
Yes.
Pay attention there. But, yeah, Mason Tharp will help. Steve Linton, I'm going to say there that I'm not going to be surprised either way, in or out. I think that if he does play, I would expect, and boy, you could use his speed on the edge a lot, because this is a team, with JPR that they call him there in Orlando, John Reese Plumlee. They run him a lot. He's going to run around a lot. He's going to throw it deep. So there's going to be some opportunities for some edge guys to really factor in this game because of how elusive and what kind of athlete that old JPR is for the Knights. So, again, Cole Spencer, I doubt it. Tyler Owens, I doubt it. But that's kind of where you're at. But, I mean, the hope of Steve Linton, and we're early in the week, and then I think Mason Tharp, I think those are, again, because you've seen what it's mattered with, obviously, Behren and Jacob Rodriguez, and boy, but it's going to really suck to lose Tyler Owens for this one if he can't play, because his speed, he's one of the fastest guys on this team. And what did I just tell you about guys on the edge, and they moved him to star to get that speed closer to the line of scrimmage. So not going to be ideal if he can't go.
If I could give you only one, is that the one you would choose, Tyler Owens? Because I think that's kind of what's popping into my mind.
Yeah.
If you could only have one, because I love Mason Tharp, but if you could only have one, I think maybe
it probably would be. Yeah. Because they're RJ Harvey, their running back, like over 1,000 yards. He's legit. The quarterback runs around. I mean, their offense is on paper, man. It's a bit scary. Again, in a different way. The athlete this week is scary. Playmaking is scary. Last week, the scheme semi-athlete was scary. This is just, we could play it right, and they still make you miss, and away you go. So as much speed as you can have on the field as possible would behoove you.
Let's stick somewhat with an injury theme, because I want to read between the lines here and what Joey McGuire has to say about how the game was won in the fourth quarter. Let's take you there and recap. First, today's episode brought to you by Jace Medical, and I just learned that you can get a 1-year supply on ED medications with Jace Medical. Do you know what that means? It means you can say, bring on extended travel. You can say, bring on the next natural disaster, and you can say, bring on supply chain issues, because you're covered, my friend. You don't have to worry about whether or not you can refill your generics from Cialis, Viagra, or Revatio prescriptions, and this is possible because of our friends at Jace Medical. So go online right now at jacemedical.com to receive your 12-month supply on your daily medication. And remember to use our promo code Locked On at checkout for a discount as well. Heard this from a verified customer recently who said they're thankful for the service with supply chain issues causing them to cut their pills in half to have them. They ordered most of their meds with a year's supply from Jace Medical, and they also picked up the antibiotic kit. Feeling secure now is what they'd tell you if they were in my seat. Prices are lower than local pharmacies, and it's recommended for everyone. So if you or someone you love would get some peace of mind by having a year's supply of any daily med, go to jacemedical.com to see if it's offered for you. And remember to use our promo code Locked On for $20 off your purchase at jacemedical.com. I want to read between the lines here and what Joey McGuire has to say about how the game was won in the fourth quarter. Let's take you there and recap. When Kansas is driving down the field, you get close to the goal line, you're looking at the clock, obviously, and there's some traditional thought about if you're playing for the game right then and there, if you're trying to give yourself some more time on the other side to possibly go down the field and score, 100 ways to skin a football or skin a cat, obviously. So didn't exactly know how Joey McGuire was going to approach it, but the way in which he did approach it was a little bit befuddling to the broadcasting crew for a moment, which like gravity seemed befuddling to that broadcasting crew. But nonetheless, then seconds later, calling Joey McGuire a genius. After we were down to 2nd and 7 at the Red Raiders 7, first timeout for Kansas there with 43 seconds, run another play. And basically then it's on Texas Tech to decide, are we trying to spare ourselves some time offensively? Are we trying to compound the pressure for Kansas here by keeping the clock ticking? What do we do? Well, Texas Tech decides to take the time out there with 35 seconds. Now, eventually, you know how it goes. Kansas is able to put some points on the board. You tie the game up there at 13. Well, then you go back down the field with Behren Morton, and that's where Joey McGuire and some confidence in a guy that we just talked about yesterday being banged up really seemed to bubble up to the surface. And when I'm talking about reading between the lines, I want to listen in here to what Joey McGuire has to say about his QB and how confidence in that QB, maybe even on a 60% or something like that day, led to some of those decisions with the timeouts. Here's Red Raider head coach Joey McGuire.
I was kind of waiting. I waited a couple of seconds to call it because I was going to see if he was going to call one, because I think he also had one left. And our thought was, get it there, because whether they kick a field goal or if they scored a touchdown, we needed some time left to try to go score. So just, I think it's one thing that you see more and more these days of just playing defense and trying to get a stop there. You're seeing more and more teams, get the timeouts. I mean, it's not traditional football. If you go back to old school traditional football, you're going to get a stop and, you're going to win right there or lose right there. And I think, with you see it more and more that we knew if we could get 30-plus seconds on the clock, then we'd have an opportunity at least to put the ball in Behren Morton's hands and try to go score. So that's why we call the timeout. Whenever you have a guy like Behren Morton, and his personality and he's a winner, we've seen that. We've definitely seen it when he's healthy. I know right now we have a really good record whenever he starts and finishes a game. That's what he did on Saturday. He started and finished the game, and he finished really strong.
I mentioned 60% because you said that yesterday. I think post-game, Behren says that to you. It ain't 60% at that time. It's like, let them hang, go out there and make a play. Doesn't sound like Joey McGuire's talking about a quarterback that he's worried about being banged up or whatever. I thought that was really interesting to take you there on the sideline in that moment and some of that decision making.
We take you through the roller coaster that was the second half with specifically with Behren and kind of how we got here. And I think that the clock management thing is almost like a separate conversation, but I think it also factors into the conversation that we have about Behren. Do you remember, I think it was early in the second half, it was a short yardage and there was a zone read play, and Behren he pulled it and kept it, and it was a 1 or 2 yard gain, and he got popped. I don't know if you remember this, but he got hit hard. I think there's some concern there, okay, how bad did he just get hit? And again, I think he pulls this just trying to make a play. I think, you want to hand it there. You're trying to move the chains and you're the competitor in him takes over, the football player in him takes over, and he took that hit. I don't think anybody wanted him to take that hit, especially the way that he got popped. Right? Okay. So now that we move on, but I think from that, I think that the next phase of the second half, it's a bit tricky with him because is he good? Did that hurt him more? Did that what level is he at? No. And so I think there's some. I don't know how you want to game management, and then you see them start to punt a bit and play field position, knowing that, the other sideline is dealing with a QB injury as well. And you've got a true freshman over there. Your defense is playing well. So these are kind of the things that I saw, but But I think once you realize we need to give Behren time, and I think he is going to be okay, is you'll also remember, and I don't remember exactly down distance or time in the game, but it was semi-late in the second half, probably fourth quarter. Behren hits Jerron Bradley for a fairly deep shot, a 25, 30-yard pass. It was near your sideline. And I don't think you end up doing anything with that possession, but I think at that point it's like, okay, he's good to go. He can make this throw. He can do some different things. And I think that all that builds to like question mark / okay, not a question mark / let's give the young man some time. And you hear Joey say, we thought if we'd have 30 plus seconds, we wanted to, well, they had 26.
That's right.
And then it's about that first play. If you don't complete the first pass on, I think it was a crossing route to Miles Price, I think it was. If you don't complete that, and correct me if I'm wrong, Calvin.
Bradley is who was for 16.
Okay. So Jerron Bradley caught the first one. Okay.
Yeah, Miles Price was right after that.
Yeah. Okay. I knew Price was in there somewhere, but yeah. But I if you don't complete that first one, then it really just kind of screws everything up. And then at some point there's going to have to be one that really gets you into position, and they had saved that one timeout. And I don't know, it was like textbook. Yeah. I mean, it was textbook clock management. And again, because it worked, coaches are criticized. Sure. Joey's been criticized all the time when it doesn't. What are you doing? How dare you? Are you, what book are you looking at? The book, right? Well, I mean, all the things, but I think he deserves a ton of credit here for it was like check. I mean, everything you needed to do got done, but Behren Morton kind of led you to that moment. And I think they just put the ball in his hands, and Bradley too, and Gino as well. But it's because you called a timeout when you did that allowed for that to happen.
Yeah, that was really interesting to watch, and it did all come together. The pieces fell into place as you would have drawn it up. May not always work out that way, but showed you exactly why you would call that timeout in that situation. Bradley for 16, for 14, and for 33 is the way they went in about, 23 seconds or so. I guess 20 seconds because you had around 7 left there.
Which is wild. I mean, just
to spare.
Yes, just absolutely wild. I mean, and the beautiful thing about like Gino's attempt there, it's one of those oddly like comfortable feelings is intense as that moment is when he kicks that field goal, is that okay, only something good can happen, nothing bad can happen theoretically, because if he doesn't make it, you don't lose. You just we're going to keep playing here.
Right.
So it was to win it or to tie. It wasn't a win or lose scenario. So it's like you had some sense of calm. But yeah, I mean, you just got down the field quickly, and your quarterback. If you go back and look, you could say your quarterback to Bradley, that Behren is that slightly underthrown. Is it underthrown on purpose? It's kind of a back shoulder.
Right.
Play. I mean, but you with his health in mind, with all the things in mind, you're not real sure, but it doesn't matter because it was 2 players on the same page. And I'm telling you, if you go watch the replay, Bradley, he hasn't even come close to turning around when that ball gets let go.
I kind of thought he was putting it the only place his guy could get it and the others couldn't. I'm going to give Morton the benefit of the doubt here, because there were 2 blue shirts or red, whatever it was, what color, between kind of Bradley, the middle of the field, in the end zone, but then it was Bradley in the sideline, and I think some green back underneath him. I don't know. We may have to ask Behren Morton, but I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. I thought he was kind of putting it in a place where at least it would only be his guy that would have a chance at it.
Well, you know what? I'll ask Behren Morton on Thursday night. He will be a guest on Joey McGuire's final coaches show.
What do you think he's going to say? Nah, man, I underthrew that one. That was my bad.
Well, he's going to be. I think he and Zach Kitley and Joey McGuire, they're not really going to get into a lot of, until the season is over. They're not really going to get into a lot of these, and we're theorizing here
right.
in some ways. But I just know the kid's hurting, man, and he's grinding through it. And you're not just him, but the whole offense is a bit it's a bit, I hate to use. I feel like we've used the word compromise too much, but it's a bit disjointed at times, just because of what maybe he can and can't do.
Yeah.
And
At
it's
times, though.
yeah,
At
and I don't
times.
want to say disjointed, but I mean it's a bit wounded, or I don't know.
Compromise. Not that anybody has a Russian dossier on him of compromising information, but yeah, and it's just at times. It's like when it's gamer time, then here we go. He's letting them swing, boys, and he did it at all of the most opportune times. So shout out to the coaching staff for the decision, and also shout out to Behren Morton for whatever way he was feeling, getting out there and getting it done, which is going to be the case again coming up this weekend. Because like we've talked about, there's not going to be a 100% week or maybe even a 95% week before the offseason hits. And he's got extended time to rest that arm. But we got a long way to go, hopefully, until then, including if you get a win this week, a game on the other side of the regular season. Before we are out of here, we have mentioned him already once, Chris, but we have got to give a shout out to the Big 12 Special Teams Player of the Week. First, today's episode brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. And these days, every new hire can feel like a huge gamble. And when we're talking about your business or livelihood, that's not ideal. But never fear, LinkedIn Jobs is here to help by finding the best qualified candidates available fast and for free, all on one easy-to-use and secure platform. With simple but specific targeting tools allowing you to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to consider. They go beyond just resume data by using insights from your job post, your company, and their 870 million member profiles to put your post in front of the most qualified candidates faster than anyone else. So go to linkedin.com/lockedoncollege today to identify the most qualified candidates and connect with them fast and for free. Just like a bad hire could sink your ship, the right hire could take your business to new heights this year. And it's no coincidence that small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. So post your job for free today at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. It's so easy. Even a Big 12 ref could do it. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free today with LinkedIn Jobs. Terms and conditions apply. We have got to give a shout out to the Big 12 Special Teams Player of the Week. And as I listed it there on the rundown on your screen, if you're watching on YouTube, I mentioned shoes filled. Gino Garcia, now the Big 12 Special Teams Player of the Week after his late game heroics, had some heroics at other times in the game as well in Lawrence, Kansas. I don't know if you're going to fill a guy like Trey Wolf's shoes, Chris, given the heroics he was a part of last season. But as far as the reliability factor and maybe even the clutch gene as well, given what we just saw, I told you there's going to be some puns in the mix. The clutch Gino, given what we just saw in Lawrence, I think some shoes have been filled. I don't know if it's apples to apples, how I'm feeling about these two guys in a tough moment or a big moment. But I got a lot of confidence in Gino Garcia right now, and it's kind of wild to think about where we came from just a few months ago, wondering like George Jones, who's going to fill Trey's shoes? I'm calling it, man. I kind of think he has filled those shoes by this point in the season. How do you feel about it?
Yeah, there's a couple of things here, I think, with Gino. Is that he's done really everything that you would have asked for him from the standpoint of he's made the makeables. And what I mean by that is I think 39 yards in, I think he's perfect. I think he's 9 for 9 on 39 yards in. And so those are now, has he made every kick? No, I think he's 13 of 18. The ones he's missed are 40 plus or even 50 plus. The other thing that I think he's done, he's made some clutch ones. And those come in different ways. I look at the 55-yarder at the end of the half versus TCU. You needed those three, man. I mean, you did desperately. And yes, it wasn't a game winner, but then he does kick the game winner versus Kansas. And so he's mixed in some clutch ones. He's made the ones that you just kind of feel like you've got to have, like, okay, we got 3 points in our back pocket, got to get it. There's been no drama, with your kicking situation. Yeah, do you wish he would have made a few versus
Wyoming. I got to go back to week 1
Yeah,
to really think about
yeah.
the last time I was like, ugh.
Yeah. And that's when you kind of was like, look out. But I mean, really, it's been just, I think you're blessed with a couple of, and I hope we remember this because it's going to be difficult to replace this. You have really a couple of stud specialists, man, like with your kicker and punter, your deep snapper and Jackson Knotts. I mean, there's just all that little group right there. I mean, Kenny Perry deserves a lot of credit, because that it used to be, man. I mean, special teams around here would get bagged on all the time. Like, what are we doing, special teams, guys? I mean, like, what are we doing? Just, I mean, it was just like you couldn't, like, just don't lose the game there. But we, heaven forbid, we're not going to ask you to do anything positive, and that I've seen so much of on RedRaidersports.com over the years of just being so frustrated. And special teams has absolutely been a plus. Do you realize, by the way, this doesn't involve Gino, do you realize that I think you're one of 3 Power 5 teams that has a kick return for a touchdown and a punt return for a touchdown in the country?
I did not.
Yeah, that's kind of fun category, and like that's just not a category that you think about Texas Tech being in. But Lubbock Fungi and Dre McCray, would I like to do it more? Hey, let's keep adding to that number, absolutely. But
any is a good start.
Yes, but Gino, he just smiles, man, and he doesn't. He seems pretty chill, man. He does not. My favorite conversation with him before the season was, yeah, man, I took this wine tasting class for Texas Tech, and I think we've even talked about that a little bit. And I'm like, you're my dude, man. And God bless Texas Tech for having a wine tasting class. I mean, that's Gino's kindred spirit right there. So he's drove out to one of the local wineries, and it's like, this is class, man.
Yeah.
I don't think he drove back. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know.
This is class. Another pun.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Hey, shout out to anybody that likes a little touch of the grape all the time.
I just appreciate our lovely alma mater teaching it. Like,
hey, this is wine country, Big Daddy.
Yes.
Napa who? I got a question though before we get out of here. And I'm sorry to catch you off guard, but Gino Garcia, this is it, right? We don't have him back for another year. We're filling more shoes next year. Yep. Gino and Austin will depart. That's why I enjoy them while they're here. Brooke Honore, I think it is a really good punter. I think that just hasn't done it yet. I think he will back up Austin McNamara. I'm going to assume that Reese Burkhart has an opportunity to replace Gino Garcia, who's been your kickoff guy. But I would be willing to bet there's somebody else enters that equation as well. Yeah. Austin and Gino, they take their craft extremely seriously. They are very much a part of the team. Some kickers are kind of isolated and just not really, they're very much a part of what goes on. And, and shout out to the Ray Guy folks for including Austin McNamara. Do you know Ray Guy kicked in Lubbock, Texas one time? I did. That was it like a Senior Bowl All-American?
It was like an all-star game back in the 1977 is going to be my guess.
But a regular thing in the OB.
But he has punted in that very stadium. Looks a bit different now, but yeah. But look, Austin McNamara, he's a pro. Sorry,
he's one of your 5 best players individually, pound for pound. And
what he's asked to do, 1,000%.
It's one of your best 5 best players on the roster. There's no question. All right, coming up on the other side, we are looking ahead, staring down the barrel of the Citronauts, the Golden Knights, Central Florida. Don't call us that. We want to be known as UCF. Gus Malzahn will be on the opposing sideline whenever they come to town. We'll listen to a few thoughts from him coming up tomorrow as we get set for the Red Raiders and UCF with bowl eligibility on the line. We got hoops on the way not too far from now as well, so we'll set the table for that. Also, game number 3 of this young season for Grant McCaslin. Don't miss a thing by making sure you're subscribed on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts. Chris, enjoyed it as always, man. Thanks for the time.
Absolutely. I'm still trying to figure out what a citronaut is, but either way, we'll talk to you tomorrow. Keep hope alive, even if you're a citronaut fan.
No clue, but as soon as I saw it, I know it was so weird, I wanted to use it repeatedly. We'll be referencing that for the remainder of the week, possibly also the Great Gazoo. For Chris Level, I'm Casey Cowan. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you for the next round on Locked On Texas Tech.